So I realized in my last video I was probably a little incoherent with what I was saying. I had essentially spent the last probably about 3 hours kind of sticking my head up in between all of this ducting. And basically this ducting here, this is all for an ERV I had installed. Now, if you've ever heard an ERV, it is an energy recovery ventilator. Basically what it does is, they kind of had to do some weird routing to make it work. Fresh air gets sucked in from out there, comes into the ERV over here. Then that fresh air is exchanged with stale air that is sucked in from my current cold air return, pulled into here, and then they exchange the energy, and then that stale air that's pulled out of here is then exhausted outside. And then that fresh air is warmed up in the winter, or possibly cooled down, and then stuffed right back into my ventilation and then circulated in the house. Ensuring that, because I have a probably about 10-year-old house now, that everything is not stale air. So to ensure that all of this works and we're not just sucking air from other spots, we're actually pulling cold air and fresh air from upstairs and that, the ventilation cold air returns are generally using the joists here. So this whole cavity gets sealed up with stuff like this thermopan here. The old stuff actually they were using was just this plastic stuff here. I mean, the thermopan is a little better because it's actually got the aluminum foil. I mean, I don't know how much of a difference it makes, but hey, it makes me feel better. So we actually cover from one end of the joist to the other, like this guy here, and then we actually put HVAC tape to seal that up. So what I was doing was trying to replace the stuff that's up in here, because they had left huge gaps on this side and on the other side. It's kind of hard to see up in here, right up in here. So it was actually sucking air up into here instead of pulling it from the cold air returns upstairs. Now, this isn't a good representation right here because this is all wide open. That hole there and that hole there both come from my main living room upstairs. So this still has to get sealed up, which is kind of what I was going over. But basically, we're trying to seal up the cold air returns so that the whole system is completely closed in. The basement is going to be a little bit trickier because I am essentially trying to do soundproofing. And what I've been spending the last couple of days on is I was running 2x4 runners across here to try and get the ceiling as close to the ventilation as I could, while still being able to have a decent sized ceiling. But then I realized I'm actually putting in these soundproofing clips, these guys right here, which then holds this drywall furring channel, and then the drywall actually attaches to that, but these basically isolate the noise from here. So to get back to this, I had the 2x4 runners across here, and I realized, well, why don't I just take the 2x4s off and replace them with clips, and then just run this furring channel across here. Then the whole thing is isolated, because I don't know how well you can see, the 2x4s are attached up to the joist. So if there's noise and it vibrates in here, it'll actually go up and it'll hit the joist and it'll transfer noise to upstairs. You know, a good example is right along this wall here. If I don't know how well it's going to transfer to video, but it basically vibrates the drywall on the other side, because if there's something here and it hits that for noise, this vibrates, transmits noise to the other side. So with the clips and that, there's a lot less of that energy transfer here. Plus, once we put the drywall up, it's actually going to be 2 sheets of 5/8 Type X fire rated drywall. Has to be something that's like a Type X, because you can get 5/8 drywall, but it might be the light version, and what you need if you're trying to do soundproofing is mass, and that is what I've learned. So I'm hoping all of this is going to work. We're basically going to put clips in here. I still need to finish putting in the door for my furnace here. HVAC stuff is coming along. Getting back to kind of what I was talking about with the HVAC. So the cold air returns are going to get all sealed up, and this room here and the main living room, like this whole rec room down here, is going to need a cold air return. Now, the problem is, like I was saying earlier, it's connected to my ventilation up here. So when we get noise, it's going to travel from the rec room up into any cold air returns, and it gets into here, and then it goes right through that hole, right into upstairs. So what I'm going to try and do actually is build a sort of baffle box, hopefully kind of in here. And what I mean by baffle box is basically a big square box that's insulated, and then it's going to have like flexi ducting like this in here with a whole bunch of insulation and stuff around it. What we do is we create like a snake, like a maze. So when the sound comes in, it doesn't just go straight up into the cold air return. It will actually have to bounce off the walls and go up and up and up and up, and hopefully that will reduce the amount of energy transfer, and then we'll put it up in there. The difficult part is I'm not entirely sure how much airflow I'm going to need. So what I'm probably going to end up doing is putting in a booster fan and stuff, but that's a whole other thing. That'll be another video later on. But essentially I wanted to explain a little bit better what's going on with the HVAC, a little bit of what else has been going on, and I will get some more updates. But I might be a little bit late on my uploads because this weekend I'm actually going to the Canadian Montreal F1 Grand Prix, so I'll have some videos for that. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.